Okay, so for this next video, I wanted to do two more students who I thought did a good job of how they interpreted the assignment. So we have Andre here who's doing pizza, and his version of denotation I thought was pretty strong, at least some of them were, because right here we're breaking up the word pizza, just slicing it up in a particular grid-like format, and pretty simple, straightforward, leaving the text here as body copy. And then I think this works as a particular format for a recipe card. So I like how we are starting to work with a hierarchy where we're breaking words down and looking at the body copy. So this could be here the ingredients list, this could be the instructions, this could be like another area of the recipe which is being followed. So breaking up your information like this is really good. Okay. Andre, I'm not so sure what's going on in these two particular sketches. I think these two are a lot more clear as to where this assignment needs to be. So if I had to pick one or two, I would say definitely go in this direction, and I would say this is more my favorite. All right. Bring in a little bit more understanding and clarity into your sketches next time, kind of like what you have up here, just so we can actually read them, because right now these just seem like squiggly lines, so they don't really communicate as much. Okay? For your connotative, I think you've done an interesting job here where you've looked at the shape of the pizza and you've looked at the ingredients, so this can go somewhere. I would definitely look at how you interpret type in this round-like format here. So this could be something. And you can also do the same with the slice right here. So we're definitely taking a more literal approach for your connotative versions right here. This one seems a little bit like the one that we talked about up here. So I would definitely focus more on these two right here, which have a little bit more direction and clarity as to where they're going for your next step. Okay? Moving on to Alejandra's work. So this is pumpkin spice latte, which we are all craving now. I wanted to show you her sketches and what I think. So on Alejandra, I would say you did a good job of interpreting some of the sketches for your denotative format. I like where some of those are going. I like that you have a bold letter for each area of your format right here, and you've broken down the information into blocks of text. So this could be your ingredients list, this could be your instructions list, and your instructions part number 2 here. So you can definitely go in this direction for sure. This can be something interesting as well, although be careful. Now you're starting to look a little bit more connotative, especially with this format right here where we're starting to see a pumpkin, right? So I would argue this might be your connotative approach right here. So think about that one for a little bit. And then I would say for this, I like the format and the slicing and the different kinds of directions this is going. I just would say, what is the reasoning behind all those different diagonals here? I'd also want to see how the text might be laid out in a more grid-like format if we are going in a diagonal version right here. So I would say this is probably one of your strongest ones out of the denotative set that you've presented. So just something to think about for your next assignment. For your connotative, I'd say you did a really good job right here in organizing your format and just how you have blocked out your text. I would like to see something where you have here where you go a little bit more illustrative. So maybe bring this one down to this area right here into the connotative and see how we can start to play around with the title, blocks of titles, subtitles, and your body of information. So see how this can start to translate, which looks like it is somehow. And then just try to maintain readability in general and how this pans out in your overall format. So I think these two are definitely very strong in terms of clarity, in terms of how we're looking at your information, and just how you've broken down levels of hierarchy. So pumpkin, spice latte, and then you have your directions and ingredients list down here. Okay? So class, I hope this is helpful. For those of you who have questions, it's perfectly fine. Just refer to these videos for clarity. I know some of you said that when you're in connotation mode, it's easy for it to go in either way, or if you're in denotative mode, it's easy for you to go more into the connotative, which is correct. You do need to go a little bit more to maintain that balance, and that's the tricky part of this assignment. Is we need to make sure that within our denotative approach that we are considering that this is in fact a recipe for pumpkin spice latte. So there needs to be some kind of hint that tells us that this is what this is. So we might need to refer to a little bit of connotation, right? But we're not illustrating like we are with connotation right here, full-on connotative approach, okay? But we still also want to maintain that with the connotative approach, that we have some structure and we maintain readability, okay? So that's something we definitely want to think about. I think we have one more I'd like to share, and this is baked candied yams. This is, I believe, Kira's work. So Kira went ahead and did this in the computer, which is fine if you're comfortable sketching on the computer. Great, all right. This looks like her denotative approach, right? Very readable, straightforward, right? So it works, but what I would say is when we sketch something out in pencil, we tend to be a little bit more loose, and we tend to bring in a little bit more, I would say, informal things into our thinking process, which is something that we want to keep and maintain even when we go to the computer. So I would say you definitely did a good job with following the directions of the assignment. Now it's more like, okay, we're talking about baked candied yams, right? So let's see if we can bring a little bit more interest into some of those sketches right here. So instead of using like a particular format, like just putting things down the middle, so maybe start introducing like what you've done here, where you have the instructions on the right and then the ingredients on the left, and you start to have little areas where you say enjoy and yum, and take a look at how you have approached the title as well. Right, so really think about the type of recipe you are working on. I think this one does a good job too. I would just watch for how much space your actual recipe takes, and also careful with how long your sentences are. You want to make sure in typography that you don't go over 13 words, and you want to make sure that you start to look at body copy text size, and that's going to be the next part of the assignment, which is how big do we want the text to be. Like I would say between 11 and 12 points, right? And for the title, how big do we want that to be, and subtitles as well. So something to think about. But I would say out of your denotative, I believe is your denotative, but it's not labeled. This is probably one of your strongest ones right here, where we're starting to break down the instructions and the ingredients list and looking at how we're dividing the page with your title, right? This one is also denotative, it seems, so it's kind of in the same line as this one right here. So I'm just taking a different approach, all right? I think this is where we get into the connotative. And I like where these are going. We're still maintaining readability, okay? So looks like yams, first read, baked candied yams are the second read, and then I'm not sure where I go after that. Do I start from the top all the way down, and then is the ingredients list here off to the side? So maybe create a little bit more difference between how you treat your body copy and your ingredients list for your next round. Okay, so we still want to maintain that readability in our recipes. So that's what we want to make sure that we maintain as long as we're on the computer, right? I think when we get into something like this, this says baked candied yams, we just need to make sure as to what's the reasoning for us distorting the text like that. Remember, we still want to understand the copy. I don't mind creating textures like that, but if it's going to be not legible, then it starts to become background. Alright, so I can still kind of see what's going on here, but give me a reason as to why we're putting things in this particular format, right? So this is interesting what's going on here, but try to bring back the readability part. Like, just try to bring some of that part. But I think it's interesting and poetic what you've done. This we kind of need to work on readability a little bit more, and we need to understand like what's going on here in the background. So a little bit more intentionality. All right. Okay. So this one seems pretty interesting as well. We're seeing a division of how the information is being portrayed inside of the recipe, right? I might want you to open up the kerning a little bit. It's starting to be a little too tight, especially with this one right here, right? So I like how you've broken up your information. So the title, the ingredients list, and then you have your information like so. What would be interesting is, let's see if there's something about these movements that you've created also in these particular formats right here. If maybe some of those could flow into your directions. So that's something to think about if this is the type of connotative approach you would like to have. And keep in mind, even when we're doing those types of movements, there has to be a particular reason as to why we're doing this. Is this what happens when yams get candied and baked? We start to see this kind of wave-like structures over the skin. Give me a little bit reason as to why we're doing something like that, okay? The same thing I would say for your previous format is bring a little bit more readability into this, because it's definitely hard to make out what's going on. So I would say this for your particular format for connotation works. This one works as well. I think it's interesting what you've done here. Just work on readability. Okay. I think this is good. It's just it needs a little bit more work. Kind of like the work that you've done here where you've organized your information a little bit better, right? So let's just focus on that for the next version of this. And I will go through what the next version is in the next video. All right? Thank you.